The start of Discovery started in the early 90s. It's an interesting time, just as South Africa was coming out of apartheid into democracy. I was a young actuarial student at a big life insurer. The complexity was a country with too few doctors, HIV, AIDS, and all kinds of levels of disease burden. A mindset, rightly so, of no more discrimination. You couldn't exclude pre-existing conditions, etc. And so the complexity of how you build a health insurance model was a really vexing problem. But I was convinced that if we could build a proper health insurer, properly capitalized with the right principles, we could build a dramatic business that would make a real impact on society. I think the breakthrough was, could we almost incentivize people to be healthy? Just contextualized 25, 30 years ago, there was no data about, if you do healthy things, it leads to lower healthcare costs and lower death rates. People thought running may be bad for you. So it was an entrepreneurial hunch of our team at the time. We used to believe from economics people make rational choices. In healthcare, they don't. The price of going for the run is immediate. I've got to actually go for a run, and that's painful. And the benefits are 40 years away. So this concept of hyperbolic discounting, I'm not going to pay the price now, I'll take my chances. So the incentives break that cycle. If you go for the run now, we give you benefits now. As you do healthy things, you earn these so-called vitality points that give you a status, and those statuses give you rewards. And every insurer around the world was starting to talk to us about, could we use this model? As the data started to emerge, we started to realize the massive causal effect of behavior change. When you change behavior, mortality comes down, sickness levels come down, healthcare costs come down. And the other epiphany was that we completely aligned to our customers. So if they're healthier, we're more profitable. The purpose is so simple and compelling. It's not a hard story to tell. I know it's actuarially and clinically complex, but the story is simple. The values are simple. The data that we've ingested over time, 50 million life years of data, is such a massive advantage. So our ability to actually understand the individual, create a personal pathway for what their specific risk factors are, understand what the next best action for them to do is. All of those factors make us a fairly formidable competitor. The global strategy has always been about partners. You can't do this organically yourself. You need local expertise. And so the ability to partner with great institutions around the world was kind of the catalyst. Partnering is a skill in and of itself. It's about trust, about shared value, shared purpose. And our partners, most of them, want to change society for the better. If the partnership is based on spreadsheets, projections, return on capital, I'm not convinced it can work. The risks today, political, geopolitical, pandemics, we've seen it all. As an insurer, inherently that's risky. I think the strategy has to be about a very strong defensive play on capital strength, liquidity strength, very prudent approach to managing the business. But the irony on the other side is that the world's problems are more solved by the disruptions I think we're doing. So in the face of COVID, for example, we found that if we looked at the people engaged in our program, they exhibited 40% lower risk of COVID death. Customer engagement, making people healthier, all of these things are fundamental in a world that's much more risky. And again, I think that our model, what's good about it, is that innovations lead to prudence, not to riskiness. So everything we do is about bringing down mortality, morbidity, healthcare costs, bringing down variability, reducing volatility. I think the strategy and the world are kind of aligned, but I think there can be no hubris in the world we live in at the moment. ESG for us is a massive issue, and I think we're doing well on that. But I think we have a specific opportunity and responsibility, given the nature of the purpose, make people healthier, drive the issue of health as a critical component and pillar of the S in ESG. We had this idea many years ago, more than a decade ago, about could we kind of apply the shared value behavioral vitality model to banking? And Discovery Bank is probably one of the biggest things we've ever done, given the scale of what it is. But it's a fantastic example of how the model can be applied in an adjacency. If you have a business model that works with deep conviction, great people, and you have the right capital base, you can succeed. Building a business is tough. It is not easy. It takes time. If you attack it with I'm going to make a quick buck here, we'll flip this thing quickly, you're not going to build a great business. It takes up to a decade to get something of real scale, and you have to have absolutely the best people. That's a lesson that you keep relearning when you don't have the right people in place, but when you do, it just starts to flow. I'm a believer that balance is a function of what you're optimizing against. I don't think you can have a balanced life that is imposed on you. 30% work, 30% sleep, 30% leisure, and you're going to succeed. My balance is about building this and being with my wife and children. That's my focus. Other people may look at me and say, this guy's a complete lunatic. He's unbalanced. But I'm in balance, I'm in flow. I'm feeling very energized by it. I'm non-conflictual. I don't like pointing out people's weaknesses. I don't believe it. I like to kind of pull through the strengths and give people a sense that, listen, anything's possible. To me, it's about vision, hope, positivity, and the irrational sense that we can do anything. I'm a great believer in optimism and positivity, not naive optimism, but giving people a sense of hope. I think it's a fundamental issue of leadership. I think in our country, with its challenges, I found that to be a major differentiator. Pessimism sounds smart, but it isn't. Optimism sounds naive, but optimism requires engagement, accountability, investing, so it's easier to be a pessimistic leader. It's harder to be an optimistic one. You have to find that vision and take people with you. But I am convinced, and I'm not saying it's me, people that can do that have a massive impact on the world.